afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. And of course, we are welcoming you to our March Lubezine webinar. My name is Collins Gaira. I'm the Lubezine Magazine Content Manager. And this month of March, we are pleased to explore this topic by the title Lubricants at the Crossroads. The topic is Lubricants at the Crossroads. And in exploring this topic, we are pleased to host our guest, John Fitton. John Fitton and Dr. Wakiru. John Fitton will be our guest, and Dr. Wakiru is going to run us through the conversation as the moderator. We have our section for our Q&A where you will be able to send your questions. So in case you have any question, feel free, please, just to share it up at the Q&A session. So at this point, you will allow me to welcome Dr. James Wakiru, who will in turn run us through the conversation. Thank you and welcome, Dr. James. Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Collins. And I want to greet everyone who's joining us. This might be morning or afternoon, wherever you are. And thanks so much for finding time to join us today. As we look into this topic, lubricants at the crossroads, we look at innovation, sustainability, and growth in Africa. And of course, with Middle East, with what is happening right now, I think it's worth to look into that. So joining us, this is the second time, John Fitton from IMCD. I want him to join and just say hi, and maybe you have new hats you've worn now. Maybe you can introduce yourself.
Good morning, James. Thank you, James. Thank you, Collins, for the invitation and for hosting this interesting topic. So I'm John Fitton. I've been in the industry for just under 30 years. In various roles. I'm currently employed by IMCD Oil Tech, based in Johannesburg, South Africa, but responsible for IMCD Lubezine Energy in Sub-Saharan Africa and Middle East. So East Africa, West Africa, South Africa. And we represent a number of principals that are supplying components into the lubricants manufacturing industry. So yes, the industry is going into some turbulent times. So yes, it's a dynamic industry at the moment. There are opportunities out there, and it's great to be able to explore some of those at the moment. So thank you, James.
Thanks for that very clear introduction. I think, as you just alluded, I think we cannot run away and hide ourselves from what is happening in the Middle East with the US-Iran conflict. And I would want you to just shed some light on how these factors in these regions could influence, or they are influencing already, the supply chain for base oils and additives.
Of the crude is coming from the Middle East, a large percentage, but a lot of feedstocks are coming from the Middle East that the lubricants industry is relying on for further processing, for manufacture of additives, components, etc. So we're seeing a situation where base oil is constrained. Fuel is constrained, first of all, because of the crude supply. That is escalating costs, is escalating manufacturing costs. We're seeing the prices of electricity in Europe increasing by 30% in the last 2 weeks, impacting manufacturing of chemical compounds that we use every day in our formulations. So we're seeing those costs coming through. We're seeing a reduction in base oil manufacturing capacity. If we look at Group 3s, for argument's sake, approximately 30% of the world's production has been taken out of production. So going forward, we have 30% less Group 3s to go around. So we're seeing costs escalating at a very rapid rate in Group 3s. We've seen pressures even in Group 4s. So Group 4s being man-made, being synthesized, we would have thought that wouldn't have been an impact. However, the feedstocks that are going into the Group 4s, we've seen a constraint in the feedstocks because a lot of those feedstocks come from the Middle East. So even base oil manufacturers in Asia and other areas are cutting back capacity, which is impacting the world supply. I think that's been impacted by people that are panic buying, that are stockpiling, that are trying to increase forecasts and stock holding from 3 months in certain parts of the world to 6 months. And that isn't helping. But yes, prices are climbing. Availability is a concern going forward. So I think it's really important as we go through this uncertain times is to work together as an industry from a manufacturer, from a supplier, from a blender, from an end user perspective. We really need to work together. We need to make sure that we're using the right lubricants in the right applications and potentially even extending drain intervals where it makes sense.
So what do you think would be the solution right now? What do you think we could be able now to do? Are we going to try and shift the sourcing from other places, maybe Far East, or where else can we turn to?
So yes, absolutely. We need to have a look at our supply chains. We need to have a look at where else can we get product from. So a lot of the blended lubricants, for argument's sake, a lot of blended lubricants has been coming out of the Middle East. So we need to start looking at can we blend those products locally? Can we make sure that we get the right quality of blended products? And obviously the base stocks we can bring in from North America, we can bring in from Asia, we can bring in from other regions where base oil is made. Bring those in, and instead of bringing in finished products into Africa, a lot of East Africa and Southern Africa it relies on blended lubricants out of the Middle East. Maybe we need to start looking at locally manufacturing, making sure that we can blend quality products with the appropriate additives and base stocks that are available in those regions to supply the required specifications for the local market. So yes, we need to rethink our supply chains, rethink what we're doing, and not just rely on imported lubricants that we have been for a while. Very similar to the lockdown periods that we had in 2020 with COVID. We've seen similar supply constraints where we have to pull from different locations, different molecules, and ensure quality. So yes, we need to put our different logistics hats on and world supply availability. We also need to start forecasting. So we need to start working with our manufacturers, working with our suppliers, and start looking at the forecasting rather than spot buying, trying to get a good deal. We really need to start looking at forecasting so that we can plan those supply chains and make sure that we are keeping the industry wet with molecules.
Thanks. And what's your take in terms of this gap that is now coming in? Could the re-refined base oils try and cover this gap that is coming in?
Absolutely. So the molecules are out there. The hydrocarbon molecules can be recycled, and RRBOs, so recycled base oils, are going to re-refined base oils are going to come into their fore, I think, in this period. The issue is really around where is the quality production, and is that quality production available right now to be switched on? So we need to be very careful with RRBOs. in terms of the quality. So we need to make sure that it has been recycled properly, that the wear metals and the used exhausted additives are actually removed from the hydrocarbon when we are recycling it in the industry. So from a carbon footprint perspective, RRBOs are beneficial. There's a huge advantage from a carbon footprint perspective, but we need to make sure that it is of the appropriate quality. We cannot just take that used engine oil, for argument's sake, filter it, clean it up through a little bit of clay, and try to put it back into the market. We need to make sure that it is actually meeting that specification. Otherwise, we're going to end up with potential failures in the marketplace if we don't have the appropriate quality in modern engines. So modern engines are getting modern machines in general, not only engines, it's transmissions, it's drive lines, it's industrial applications, are getting very more and more sensitive to the lubricant quality, and the base oil has a significant role to play there. So we need to make sure that the RRBOs that we are using are of the appropriate quality for the performance level that we're looking at. And yes, it is possible. I've spoken to a number of manufacturers in the last couple of days, and their problem is getting feedstock. So we need to see how we can make sure that our used lubricant is actually getting back into the system, so it can actually be regenerated and put back into the system as good quality re-refined base oils.
So considering with the virgin base oil, what's your take in terms of the compatibility and the homogenizing and solubilizing of the additives, and the future performance when you use RBOs in formulating lubricants?
So it all comes down to the performance specification of the RRBO. If we take, for argument's sake, a Group 2 re-refined base oil, and it has been properly filtered, properly cleaned up, hydrogenated, and distilled, it's going to have a very good performance. It's going to look very, very similar to the virgin Group 2. It's going to have a good VI. It's going to have high saturates, and of the appropriate viscometrics that we can then blend back in, and that needs to be taken into account in terms of what level of performance are we looking at. So certain levels of performance, industrial, not really the end of the world, but for automotive applications, we need to make sure that we have the correct additive testing to make sure that, first of all, the additive is soluble, but secondly, that it is performing in that base oil the way it is in a virgin base oil. That's quite a lengthy process. It's quite an expensive process. And so we need to be selective really in terms of where we're going to use these RRBOs. And it cannot just replace all virgin base oil. It all depends on the performance, on the specification. But again, if RRBOs are done appropriately or are done correctly to the correct performance level, we can meet very high performance levels of the lubricant in the marketplace. So as I say, it all comes down to what technology you are using, what performance level, and what testing you are doing. This is all feedstock dependent. So if we are able to segregate our feedstocks and making sure that only Group 2s are going into the feedstock, be it a hydraulic oil, be it an engine oil, etc., and we're processing it in the right way, we can get good quality RRBOs out the other side that we can then use in our formulations. We then need to take the quality of that lubricant, of that base oil. work with the additive company and see what testing we need to do to ensure compliance to a specific specification. A lot of testing has been done over the last couple of years by the additive companies, as well as by certain marketers. There are some major oil companies that are for the last couple of years have been marketing high-spec products in the market based on re-refined base oils. It's designed from a sustainability perspective and demonstrating very good performance. We cannot meet all specifications with these kind of products. It's just too costly to generate that data set, but it can be done. It all comes down to cost. It all comes down to what performance are you looking for. But yes, it can be done. The question is just how quickly can we get it done in the current crisis situation that we are at the moment, where hardware infrastructure may not be readily available.
Thanks for that. I think we can go on a different direction or trajectory now. What role do local producers come of the OMCs that you have locally in different countries? Of course, when you compare them with the global suppliers, what is their role in shaping the market for additives?
The local producers can definitely so if we look at using quality base oils, quality additives, put in the formulations, the recipes together appropriately, making sure that we're meeting all of the specifications, there's no reason why local producers can't be as good, equal to, or as good as imported product. All we need to do is to make sure, work very closely with the suppliers and the other suppliers out there as well. It's not just IMCD WorldTech that can work with you and help you. There are a number of other reputable suppliers. Work with your supplier and make sure that you're doing the correct testing to a performance level. It's not. We can't work for the low cost base and try to get the cheapest product out there. It doesn't always work. We need to make sure quality. If we can work together, get the right quality, get the correct specification of the product, then we can equal or match the imported products. Made local is going to save costs. Ultimately, in the long run, in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of if we are importing bulk base oil, it's way cheaper than importing finished fluids. We're able to also blend just in time so that we're able to match the market demands with the correct lubricants. So there are huge advantages to locally blending, to modifying the formulations with the additive company to suit the local requirements. It's pointless us having a lubricant that we are using in an application where we don't need a certain performance level and we're over-engineering, we're wasting money. We need to match the requirements, and the African requirements are quite different to the European requirements, to North American requirements, etc. So we need to match the additive technology to the local requirements, and we can do that by blending locally. We just need to ensure that we're meeting the specifications of the market.
No, that's profound, and I think it is important to, from what you are saying, we require partnerships.
Absolutely.
Partnerships of the local producers and the additive suppliers, so that they can be able to feed back the additive producer or suppliers with what they require. And then the additive manufacturers will be able to come up with a product that meets those requirements. I don't know if that is something that is already working or really that you're advocating for.
So absolutely. So thank you for that question. So it's all around information sharing. It's all around knowledge sharing, in my opinion. And we need to share the knowledge that we have from the distributors, from the additive manufacturers, to the blenders and to the market. There's a lot of, from my perspective, and it's my opinion, but it's not necessarily fact, but there's a lot of mistruths that are spreading in the market around performance, around how to blend these kind of specifications, what's required for the local market. And it's really about opening up, having two-way communication with end users, with blenders, with distributors, with additive companies, and finding local solutions. And there are many local solutions, many success stories around the world where working together, sharing information, we're able to save end users money in terms of increased uptime. If we look at business is only making money when their machines are working. If there's downtime, and if it's lubrication related downtime, it's a challenge, it's an issue. And we need to really move away from the mindset of what's the cost per liter that I'm buying in a can or in a drum. And we need to start moving towards what's the total cost of ownership of a machine. Maybe doubling the cost of the lubricant I'm putting in the machine, I can increase the drain intervals by 4 times. And therefore saving money. If I don't have to bring my machine down to service it and it's out working longer with lower wear rates, it's going to last longer. It's going to make more money from a production perspective. And ultimately, at the end of the day, businesses are going to make more money. Rather than looking at what's the cheapest lubricant that I can find on a liter basis, put it in a machine and potentially end up with failures. So it's around changing some mindsets, from my perspective, changing some mindsets in the field, changing how we think about lubrication and cost of lubrication. Cost of lubrication is not the cost of a drum of lubricant. It's looking at your entire operation and making sure that we are saving money from an operation perspective, from a downtime perspective, from a servicing perspective. Every time you service a machine, you're introducing a potential risk of failure. Why? Because you have human intervention. You have potential dirt getting into the system, etc. Incorrect fluid going in, all of these kind of aspects. So we really need to think wider than just a lubricant specification or the cost of a lubricant.
Super, I think, and now you are touching where my heart is, the end user. The end user, basically, when you talk about total cost of ownership, he's the one, or the end user is the one who really feels it. He's the one who has bought the asset, and he's the one using the lubricant. And there's a lot of work that comes into maintenance and operations, and a lot of costs that are related to this. So could you kindly give us, provide a synopsis on how the choice of additives, which now we are seeing, is basically from the lubricant producer and the additive manufacturer, how that will impact the maintenance and operational costs of an end user's equipment or assets?
Thanks. So a very, very good question. So it's going to be a synopsis because we could be here for a couple of days. But really, when we look at an end user application, the lubricant is there to reduce wear. If we're reducing wear, we're going to we reduce friction. We're going to reduce wear. The machine is going to last longer and is going to perform as it's desired for longer. So when additives are designed, we need to understand the application, the machine type, where it's being used, what are the temperatures, what are the machine surface finishes, what are the total operations that machine is going under, what are the loads, all of these kind of aspects need to be taken into account. The additive companies then go and design additives and test those additives in machines, in the laboratory first of all, then in machines that are stationary machines and test rigs, and then ultimately in the field to make sure that the performance of that machine is is excellent, and that we are reducing wear. So there's no such thing as matching chemistries. You cannot just go into the laboratory, match chemistry, put a certain amount of calcium, phosphorus, zinc into a formulation and expect it to perform. It's about understanding that entire application. So the additive companies are constantly working on new additive packages, as we call them, which are combinations of various different additives that are going into a formulation. That formulation or that additive is then combined with specific base oils, because those base oils are giving certain characteristics. And all base oils are not the same. So even if we look at group 2s, you have some good quality group 2s, some poor quality group 2s. We need to make sure that the base oils we buying are actually within specification, first of all. But then the additives that are brought into the market constantly for these kind of applications. So if you look at off-highway equipment, for argument's sake, off-highway equipment requires specific transmission lubricants, typical Cat TO4 lubricants and FD1 lubricants for final drives. And those additives are specifically designed for those conditions, designed, tested by the OEMs, and in conjunction with the additive companies. And these test programs cost a lot of money to design and develop. But it's really put together to ensure machine compliance at the end of the day. We don't want breakdowns. The end user doesn't want breakdowns. It's going to cost him money. And so we need to make sure that these technologies are robust in a number of conditions. So if you think about a tractor fluid, a UTTO, new technologies are coming on the market. But a tractor is exposed to water, it's exposed to wear, it has to handle power off-takes, it's a hydraulic fluid, it's a transmission fluid, it's a wet brake fluid. So it's quite a complex fluid. And all of those aspects need to be taken into account in that additive package in combination in various base stocks where it's tested, so to ensure compliance. And as I say, so off-highway, there's specific applications where we market technologies that are approved by or recommended, should I say, by the additive companies, and there are unique technologies. So there are some technologies that are exclusive in specific applications. We also move in towards more products that are multi-purpose and can be used in a number of different OEMs. So CVT transmissions, constant velocity transmissions, constant velocity transmissions, CVTs, are becoming quite common, especially in East Africa. And there are a number of different OEM specifications. So what the industry is doing is putting together additive packs that can be used in a number of different OEMs across the range. So they're multi-purpose additives. We're seeing that in transmissions. We're seeing the change towards hybridization, which has a very different fluid requirement to a old traditional transmission fluid. So there are major changes, major challenges, and the additive companies and marketers are coming to the party and bringing these additives, these formulations into the market, which is going to help the end user, help them, the blender, help the end user in terms of driving the local blending, these fluids, bringing down the cost of these fluids specifically for the older vehicles, and designing technologies specifically for the African market. I think that's a big one where our environmental conditions are very different to Europe, to North America, as I've mentioned, and we really need to design those additive packages for the local markets. We need to look at cost, we need to look at performance, and we need to look at reliability. And if we can tick all of those boxes, I think we're moving a long way forward in terms of the process.
So, I want you to take some time to introduce us. What is to your company, IMCD, Oiltech, what products are you selling, or what value proposition are you giving us in the market? At least introduce IMCD before we go deeper now into some innovations that I recently came across about some of the additives that you have.
Perfect. Thanks, James. So IMCD is, we are a group of global companies. We head officed in, so IMCD Group is head officed in Netherlands. We're in numerous countries around the world, about 60 countries around the world. And we offer specialized additives and components into a number of different industries. So we're broken up into eight different business units, of which I represent the lubes and energy sector. So we focus primarily on lubricants and energy. And in our sector, we offer a wide range of components and technologies that are going into the lubricants and energy sectors. So that's everything from base oils, Group 1s through to Group 5s. Which we source from a number of different principals. So the principals are the manufacturers. We only work with blue chip manufacturers. So the quality of the products that we are supplying into the market, the components, the additives into the market, are well tried and tested from blue chip companies. And that ensures quality for you, the end customer. So it's base oils, it's components. We do brake fluids, coolants, grease to add all the additives that go into grease manufacture. So all of those technologies, solvents, detergents, and the range goes on. Dyes, markers, all of those solid lubricants. So we do a wide range of additives that we source globally and supply locally. But that's not at all. It's not just about the supply. It's really about the partnership with our customers. I don't like calling them customers. I call them partners. So it's about partnering together, working together, making sure that we are giving the formulations, the technical support, so that they can grow their market. And I always say I'm selfish because I want them to grow their market so that they can buy more from me, so that I can grow my market. But it's really about a partnership between the principal and the end user, which is typically manufacturers. So we sell to manufacturers, we help them technically, but it's not only one additive supplier or one principal that we're representing numerous principals from around the world. So as a blender, you're able to source most of your components that you need directly from us. And we're able to assist you with as a blender, we're able to assist you technically. We have technical centers around the globe and technical resources and expertise. So we're able to pull from resources in numerous countries, in Europe, in North America, in Asia, in South America, in Africa, North Africa, South Africa, East Africa, etc., around the globe to assist you.
I saw that it contains this additive CVT16 or something, which offers some benefits, I think, over some of the brands that are there. So what makes this additive maybe very different and better? And what benefits could one derive using it? And what is your proposition that I think some of your products might be, I don't know if this is the right way to say, better or slightly above what the OEMs have, I don't know. But maybe you could shed some light on that.
So when additives are developed specifically for this kind of industry, we're trying to put together to reduce the additive requirements and the fluid requirements for the aftermarket. It's really about how do we put fluids together that are multifunctional in terms of OEMs. So we really look at at the various OEMs, so the manufacturer requirements across the range. And if you have a look from a CVT perspective, there are different requirements between Honda, between Subaru, between Nissan, and the list goes on, BYD, etc. Different requirements. So what we do is we take all of those requirements and we try to put fluids together that are superior to all of the original equipment manufactured fluids, but that are also multi-use, so it can go into a number of different OEMs. So we all forever benchmarking against the genuine fluids and the original equipment manufactured fluids and specifications in the market. And with all of these fluids, we're able to supply test data against the performance, and sometimes using statistical tools to ensure performance. But performance is there. So it's always around how do we minimize the amount of fluids that are required for the market. So CVT16 is one of them that has a wide range of OEM specifications that it actually meets. It would be quite sad if a blender had to go out there and blend 3 different CVT fluids to support the market. So we constantly striving to ensure that we are better than or meeting or exceeding, as we call it, the OEM specifications that are out there. So as I say, CVT16 is one of them, which is a growing market in this region that can really be blended locally. And what we're doing with a lot of these, what the additive companies are doing with a lot of these products, is putting packages together. So making it easy for the blender. And this specific product, it's two products that go in. It's a straight base oil and additive, and you've got your product. So it's making it easy. And ensuring good quality, fit for purpose products in the marketplace. And again, It's a partnership. It's about sharing these information, these technologies with the blenders.
Great. What about Lubrizol 9660?
That's an interesting product. This is a product that is a CAT FD1 product. So it is a final drive, CAT final drive product. If you look at Caterpillar yellow equipment, construction equipment, the final drives are often heavily loaded. We operating under in the extreme conditions and interesting temperatures, loads, and extreme conditions in these applications. So what CAT found is that they were getting damage in their final drives. So they've been working very closely for numerous years with the likes of Lubrizol, and developed a CAT's FD1 specification. And Lubrizol 9660 is approved against that specification. It's a unique approval, and it's an exclusive approval. But it is a problem solver in the market for your heavily loaded final drives in your construction equipment. It's way superior to a CAT TO4 product in terms of friction characteristics, wear characteristics in those heavily loaded final drives. So it's all about a partnership. It's all about a partnership between the additive companies with the additive expertise and the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers with their expertise on the hardware. And it's about working together to make sure that you are looking after the hardware in the best way possible with the best fluid possible.
Maybe I can give you the last question before we go for the Q&A session. You basically a leader in IMCD oil tech. How do you balance the technical expertise that you provide with, of course, the business strategy? Because here, the product is very good. You're giving. What about the business strategy? So, and the strategy comes from even the clients themselves. You want them to save something. You don't just want to give them very high price because it's a premium product? I don't know how you balance. How do you balance?
That's a difficult question to answer. Yes, we all in business to make money, and so we need to balance the business drivers, the business strategy with the clients, with our customers' strategy. So from my perspective, it's all around sharing information. It's all around giving the correct technical guidance, the correct technical strategy, and ensuring quality product. And we can only do that through a partnership with our customers, with our partners, with the blenders, working with them, sharing the information, and protecting our brand and protecting their brand. The last thing that we want is lubricant to be failing in the marketplace. And we really want to extend drain intervals and protect brands. So a poor quality lubricant that goes out into the marketplace that potentially causes failure. Not all lubricants that are blended incorrectly will cause failure, but a number of it can cause failure. And when it causes failure, it causes damage to a brand. And so it's really around ensuring quality products that are cost competitive. I'm not saying the cheapest on the market. I'm saying cost competitive. And that is where we are competitive in the market, but adding value to the blenders, adding value to the end users. And that's around energy efficiency. That's around reduction in wear rates. And if we reducing the wear rates of end users, we're able to extend the life of those machines. That the expensive asset is going to last longer. That yellow equipment isn't going to fail in the pit and just be left there. It's going to work for a lot longer, and as it works longer, it's going to make more and more money. So it's really a fine balance, and it's quite difficult to give a direct answer, but it is about working together. It's about educating and sharing information. If we look at the current situation, the current supply crises that we're in, it's sometimes about sharing the bad news along with the good news, coming up with solutions, working together to keep the supply chain going, to keep the molecules flowing around the globe, and yeah, it is a fine balance. But from my perspective, it's about working with the partners and sharing information and training and working together to optimize formulations. So it's pointless, as I said earlier, it's pointless about overspeccing a fluid for an application. We shouldn't be specifying a Ferrari where a Mini will do the job. And we need to optimize those formulations to ensure that we are meeting the requirements of the end use. We can help you with that. We can partner with you through our technical expertise, through our global leadership, our global testing capacity in the world, and understanding the logistics, understanding the infrastructure. We also striving down the digitalization route, so information flow is a lot easier, and those kind of aspects. So from my perspective, it's a very fine balance, and it's all about long-lasting relationships with our partners, with our suppliers.
Great. I think we can now move to some questions. Collins, I think you could take us through any questions that is there.
Yes, we have two questions. We have two questions, and I'll begin with the first is from Henko Busen. He asks, do you think the global situation is going to increase the interest of synthetics, in quotes, industrial specifically? And what's your prediction on pay your supply? Is it also affected as a mineral base oil production, group 1 to 3?
Absolutely, in both aspects. I can see a lot of interest from some end users who are saying, right, we need to see how we can extend the life of our molecules that we have. So it's around making sure that we are using the correct fluids and the correct applications. And in certain applications, by moving to synthetics or semi-synthetics and getting the correct formulations into those areas, we can extend the life of that lubricant. If we're constrained in terms of the hydrocarbon molecules, but I can change that hydrocarbon molecule from a mineral to a synthetic, and able to extend the drain interval from 1,000 hours to 4,000 hours, for argument's sake, I'm under less pressure to replace that fluid, as long as I'm not impacting the life of the machine. So I can see more and more people who are looking towards those areas. I also think that if you have a look at the price escalation that we're seeing in Group 1s and Group 2s, the prices of Group 1s and Group 2s are climbing so rapidly that I think there's going to be a lot of interest in Group 4s, because the gap is narrowing in terms of cost. The flip side of that is that we haven't seen it, or we are beginning to see it already, that there is constraints in the PAO supply. And so really it's around making sure that you get your forecast right as blenders. Get your orders in early, secure demand for Q2 for this year, and making sure that we get those forecasts into the manufacturers so that we can secure those molecules for the African continent. As other molecules are potentially constrained, and PAO is going to be constrained because of the feedstocks that we have. Luckily, none of the production facilities have been taken out, as with Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3. Group 4 production capabilities haven't been affected as yet. It's really around the feedstock molecules that are under constraint at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you for the response. So we have another question from Kashif Henbury. He asks, what in your opinion is the difference between an OEM, in quotes, genuine motor oil, and a market-related oil? I'll repeat the question. He asks, what in your opinion is the difference between an OEM, in quotes, a genuine motor oil, and a market-related oil?
This is an interesting question. So a genuine motor oil that is specified specifically by the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer, it really depends on the OEM. Some OEMs have specific genuine motor oils that they test themselves and that no one else can test to a specification, because there isn't a specification that is available. So the OEM is not releasing a specification, and therefore no one can actually test to that spec to ensure compliance for a specific application. However, the other OEMs who have genuine motor oils or genuine lubricants that they're supplying to the market, they also have a specification that you can meet. And if you test against that specification and register with the OEM, you can have OEM approved products that are as good or better than the genuine oils. So it's a difficult question to answer, because every case is different. Every manufacturer is different. Every OEM is different. But in general, if the OEM has an approval process and you have an approval for that approval, you should be as good or better than the genuine motor oil.
Thank you for the response. Those are the two questions that that have been shared on the Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Collins. And I think we coming towards the end. Maybe you could give us a parting shot, John Fitton, in terms of what do you think is going to happen, and where do we put our eggs now? Where do we put our eggs?
James, I think that's a bit of an unfair question. My crystal ball is broken. I don't know where we're going to go. However, the only thing is that we need to plan ahead. We need to look at our forecasts. We need to look at our supply chains, and we need to see how where can we get molecules from different locations. How can we plan into the future? Spot buying, I think, in this day and age where we're trying to save 10 US cents here and 5 US cents there, I think is going to be a risky strategy going forward over the next couple of weeks and months. Even if the situation in the Middle East changes tomorrow, the situation isn't going to stabilize for a while. Production capacity of specifically Group 3s is going to take many, many months to years to come back to where it was. So really, it's around planning. It's around discussing with, as if you're a blender, discussing with your additive company, with your base oil supplying company, and really planning and mapping the way forward and looking at forecasts, looking at strategies in terms of, can you get molecules from different locations? Can you blend locally? Can you upgrade your customers to different products for the applications that are going to support them? So from my perspective, it's about communication. It's about constantly talking and sharing information. I mean, recently I've had some challenges with some of my customers where I've gone to them and I said, guys, I don't know if your supplier has told you I'm not supplying you these products, but these products are a challenge going forward. And here's some potential solutions. I suggest you look at them. I suggest you make a decision on the way forward, and look at other options outside of your current supply chain. So it's really around, from my perspective, it's really around constant communication and talking to everyone.
Great. I think that's
We
a very
have
good
another
way to-
question.
Okay, just go on.
So, sorry for that. Another question just dropped in from Ahmed Mazar Bashir. He is saying, "Hi John, I am a freelance consultant from Canada. I want to know how long and what is the process for a new blender to get API CK4 SP approval using your additives." Hi John, I am a freelance consultant from Canada. I want to know how long and what's the process for a new blender to get API CK4 SP approval using your additives. Thank you.
So API CK4. I'm not too sure about a CK4 SP, but we can do it in certain technologies, SN, etc. It's really around working with us in terms of what are your base stocks, and then we would then put together a data set for you. Assuming that we have the coverage in the base stocks that you are looking for. So in these technologies, we would have tested it in certain base stocks and done base oil interchanges between the more common base stocks for an application. So it's really make contact with us, with the additive, with your supplier, and we'll work with you to put together a data set. You then take that data set, you apply on the API website. They will send you an invoice. You pay the invoice, and they will assess your brand, and then assuming that everything works. Or everything is up to board and you're blending at an ISO 9001 facility and you've supplied all the documents, they will then give you a registration document and your product will be approved under your brand name. But we support you with the technical data. that has been tested that API have access to. So that can be done, but it's all around what base stocks you're using. In terms of the timeline, API is relatively quick. It's probably 2.5 months. Some of the other OEMs take a lot longer, but it's a relatively quick process.
Yeah, thanks for that response. I think if you're okay, John, I can share your email on the chat so that whoever wants to reach you can reach you.
No problem.
Are you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, anytime.
So I've just put the email to John Fitton at the chat. So I think we can reach out to him anytime, and then we can continue the conversation. I want to thank you, John, for making time to be with us again. I know this is a very hot time, especially situation that we are having in the current UAE and of course the Middle East. So thanks so much for bringing us those insights, and we will of course call you again. And thanks for your patronage. We are very thankful. And for our audience and whoever is around, thanks so much for making time to be in this webinar. We have these webinars in our YouTube channel, and we promise we will send you the link. Whoever has registered will be able to send you the link so that you can subscribe and be receiving again all this content as and when they are published. For now, I think we want to thank you and wish you a nice afternoon wherever you are, or morning, and see you next month towards the end of the month, and keep it up, keep it here. You'll be able to get more information. Thanks, and have a nice day.
James, and thanks to Lubezine for spreading knowledge. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
All right. Cheers. Thanks. Bye.